Guys, welcome to another episode of The Pulse. Every week, you know what we do. People share their stories, the things that they're doing, their background, their experiences, how they're using their voice for good. And our guest today doing all those things. So, actor, now author.
Yeah.
Getting slapped in the airport.
Yeah.
Man, you got stories.
I got stories, man.
Jay Ellis joins us. We appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We were joking during the break that we've got the book, and we're going to talk about the book.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to put it up right here.
Yeah, I think we should.
Product placement real quick.
Yeah, because people need to know what's going on with the book.
It just has to be stained in your memory forever.
Exactly. That's the plan. So we're going to leave it there. We'll talk about the book. For now, it'll just be in the shot, and we'll act like we don't even see it. How'd you get into this? What's your background leading up to this?
My dad was in the Air Force. I grew up, I was moving around a ton. At the time, like I was always moving around. And as we moved around, I would always put on a new persona and be a new character at whatever school I went to. And I loved movies. I loved television. I loved watching The Fresh Prince. I loved watching Different World. My mom was a big drama movie buff. My dad was a big comedy movie buff. And so I was just always kind of surrounded by film and television. And that was like one of my friends because we moved around so much. It's what I did to comfort myself other than have an imaginary friend, which I talk about in the book, obviously. But then fast forward, I went to college. I actually played basketball in college. Okay. And while I was there, I used all my electives to take classes around the theater program. So I would do like a movement class and a voice class and a sense memory class. Next step, I decided I wanted to act. After a journey, I ended up in LA. Walking around thinking I was an actor, thinking somebody was just going to find me. Somebody's going to be like, hey, man, where you been? We've been looking for you. You're the guy. It didn't happen that way at all whatsoever. Nobody stopped me in the streets. But I slowly figured it out. I got some headshots. I got in some acting classes. I did a workshop. I met a manager. I went on an audition. I got far on that audition. I went on another one. I got far on that one. And then all of a sudden I was playing in this game of being very close to getting a show or getting a job, a big job, a life-changing job. And then I got it, and that was the game.
So you had to grind.
Yeah. And then even quit and then had to come back at it. So, you know, I first started and I was actually at a party and an agent walked up to me and I didn't know this guy was an agent and I was telling some stories. I was talking to a group of people and he said, what's your name? And I said, Jay Ellis. And he said, are you an actor? And I said, yes, of course. And he said, I want you to come to my office next week and bring your headshot, bring your resume. Well, I didn't know what either of those things were. So I typed up every job I had ever had, from Athlete's Foot to Smoothie King to working in the cafeteria in college to a couple modeling jobs that I had. But I had no idea what I was doing. Anyway, he repped me for a little bit, sent me out for a bunch of auditions, and I was horrible. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never taken an audition class. I didn't understand what it meant to audition, and I got no feedback, no good feedback anyway. He dropped me, and I was like, I don't want to be a starving artist anyway. Who wants to drive all over LA getting rejected and getting tickets because I don't have coins to put in meters? I'd moved to LA to act, but I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid of the work. I was afraid of what it meant to be uncomfortable. I was afraid of what it meant to sit in acting class and watch, and people give you notes, and people watch me being in my feelings and being weird and like tripping over language. Right. Why was I in LA? It's this question I kept asking myself, and it was to be an actor. And so I gave myself this time limit. I said for 2 years, I'm going to just work on being an actor. I had to work, obviously, to pay my bills. I worked day and night, but it allowed me to basically be in class, pay for class as much as I possibly could. And then I watched everything. And then that's when I actually started going to workshops after about 2 years. And then I met a manager, then I met an agent, and then it started to work.
Put the time in. They don't tell you, when everybody says fake it till you make it, they don't tell you that can backfire. That whole thing, here, like I auditioned for a job here, had no idea what an IFB was, the earpiece. And so I'm sitting there auditioning for the news, and they count me in, because they had said, do you have your IFB? Yeah. I didn't know. I didn't want to admit I wasn't qualified to be in there. So you went through the process. Yeah. You kept going. Yeah. You get your big break. Yeah. Like, when did you know that this is it?
You know, there's this thing when you're acting, when you're getting, it starts out like a pool of 500 actors, even 1,000 actors for one role. And then that gets whittled down to like 200 or 150, and the casting director would see those 150 in person. And then that gets whittled down to like their top 5 for one character.
Okay.
And then you audition for the producers who created the show, and then that gets whittled down to 3. And those 3 people go to the studio or the network who's making the show and paying for the show, and then they get to decide which of those 3 actors gets the job. To get to that means that you're auditioning at a high level. You may not be the choice for whatever reason, but you're getting the material, you're getting the work, you're making it funny, you're making it heartfelt, whatever it may be. You're connecting with the material, and the producers can see that. After those 2 years of being in school nonstop and watching and soaking up everything, I got to that step pretty fast. And that's when I was like, oh, this might be real. This might actually, I think this could actually happen. And it still took about a year and a half to happen before I booked the game. But because I was getting so close, it was basically between me and you.
Right.
It's like, well, the odds are 50-50. Well,
so,
I mean, I had my IFB. I had my IFB.
Right, so you were prepared.
I had my IFB.
I should have taken the 2 years to learn. So at that point, even before you got the big break, you decided, because you were getting close,
I was all in,
that this is for me.
There was no plan B. I was all in.
Okay.
There was no plan B. I was 100% in. It was a numbers game. It's a batting average. At that point, it becomes a batting average. And you know the Phillies. You got baseball in this city. Yeah. It literally just came down to, like, sooner or later I was going to connect. And I just needed to hang in there until I connect. People get so close to the thing they want, and then they quit. And they don't even know how close they are. And I didn't know that at the time. I didn't necessarily know how close I was, but I knew I was close enough that it could be real. And so I was just all in at that point. There was no backup at that point.
On that journey, you had stories.
Yeah.
And one of your modeling gigs was nasty.
Very, very, very nasty.
The path
they got
to
me here.
Success.
They got me here, yeah.
And that's when you decided to stop being a model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was out of the country. I went to this underwear casting. And there was this long hallway, and all the guys, we were lined up in the hallway. And at the end of the hallway was a doorway, and you walked into a room, and in that room sat a table, and 3 people sat behind that table, and producer, a photographer, and the client. And there was a chair in front of that. And each person would walk in, they would take a little headshot, and then they would strip down and put on a pair of underwear that were in this chair. And they would turn around and they would take a wider picture, head-to-toe picture of you, excuse me, in this underwear to see how it looks on you, right?
Underwear model.
They're gonna make you a face of their brand. And I walk in, I say my name, they take my headshot, and then I turn around and I look at the chair and I look at the underwear, and then I look up at the doorway, and there's still like 3, 4, 5 guys in line that I can see anyway, who are standing in the doorway, and they're kind of like watching to see what I'm doing so they know what to do next. And I just had this moment where I realized that there had probably been like 20 guys in front of me when I started this, and we were all trying on the same underwear. And dudes are nasty. Men are nasty. We're nasty. We're nasty forever. We're nasty as boys. We're nasty as grown men. We don't know.
You even have to be nasty for it to be nasty.
You know what I mean?
Share and draw.
It's crazy. It was crazy, man. And so I turned around and I was like, guys, I am so sorry. I am not supposed to be here. And they were like, what? And I just said, I am so sorry to waste your time. I'm just not supposed to be here. And I turned around and I walked out. And then I was done after that. I knew that wasn't for me. I knew, like, that's not what I went to college for. That's not what the ancestors worked for. That's not what my mom and dad went blood, sweat, and teared over.
Right. This is why we can't have nice things.
This is why.
Coming up, his role on the hit show Insecure, it led some women, let's just say, to get a little physical.
Obviously, I don't condone assault in any way whatsoever.
Especially
when it's my face.
Somebody slapped you in the airport?
I've been slapped twice, actually. I was slapped at JFK once, and then I was slapped in Utah in the Salt Lake City airport. Listen, obviously, I don't condone assault in any way whatsoever. Especially when it's my face. But I don't condone it generally. But what I will say is it is pretty amazing to see how people so I don't even know how to explain it. So strongly connected to these characters. to the fact that they could not separate me from that person. I think TV also has that effect because somebody's in your living room every single day. So I think, we talk about this in the industry, actors who are fortunate enough to work in television, we talk about this all the time. Like, people think you're in their house. They hear you, they see you, and they know that that it's a character, but it starts to become real. And I think this is one of those shows where it became very real, these characters. I still get, people walk up to me all the time and they're like, why you do my girl Issa wrong? Why you do my girl Issa like that? And I'm like, she cheated on him. I'm confused.
Why are you having that argument? You're defending as the character.
But because my thing is, we all got to still see the same thing. We got to at least all believe the same basic truths.
What you expect me to do?
If we believe the same basic truths, then we can have a conversation.
Okay.
That's my thing.
All right.
Right? If we can at least just believe the same basic foundational truths, then we can have a conversation. She cheated on him first. Again, I don't like getting slapped, so please, if you see me in the streets, don't do that. But I do appreciate and love the response from people. I love the fact that people love the show so much.
Coming up, his new book explores a surprisingly relatable topic.
If 68% of people had an imaginary friend, that means like essentially 2 of every 3 people I talk to had an imaginary friend. So where did that imaginary friend go? Do they remember that imaginary friend?
Why'd you decide to do this?
Yeah, I don't know if I decided or if it decided for me, to be quite honest with you. We were in the pandemic, and I was down at my parents' house and like flipping through all these pictures and watching myself as like a butt naked baby, and then a toothless wonder of joy, and then a brace-faced middle schooler, and then a pimply-faced high schooler. And I just watched this transition in all these different cities I lived in and different schools I was at. And all these stories, these memories really started to kind of come back. And across the younger ones, one of the things that I found consistent was my imaginary friend. I was always getting into trouble. I was a very mischievous kid. And I don't know, it sat with me for a little bit. 2 or 3 days later, I just got on Instagram and just told a story and asked if anybody else had an imaginary friend. And so many people started responding. Oh, my childhood imaginary friend was a purple dinosaur. Oh, my childhood imaginary friend was a dog, a border collie. Or if it wasn't their imaginary friend, it was their brothers or their sisters, or it was their child who had an imaginary friend. Right. And they were asking questions. Is he gonna be a weirdo? What's gonna happen to her? Like, and I was like, they're gonna be all right. Like, we have to demystify this whole thing. And then actually for myself, I just started writing stories down from my childhood, partially because I didn't want to forget them. I just wanted to have the stories, and I looked up and I found that I had written what kind of felt like 4 or 5 chapters of a book. Reached out to someone I was working with at the time, sent it to them, and they were like, I think this could be a book. I think this might actually be a book.
We did a segment on imaginary friends on Good Day a while back, and I found out I was one of the few people in the room who didn't remember having one. And then all of a sudden, I was like, wow, what's wrong with me? Like, everybody else has them. Like, even imaginary friends didn't want to hang out with me.
I did a lot of research for this book and quote a couple studies in the book and a couple different articles in the book and even some books as well. And one of the things that I found is that about 68% of kids have an imaginary friend growing up. You were in that 1/3 that did not. You're in that 1/3 that did not. Man. If 68% of people had an imaginary friend, that means like essentially 2 of every 3 people I talked to had an imaginary friend. So where did that imaginary friend go? Do they remember that imaginary friend? What was their experience like with that imaginary friend? And also, why do you think that imaginary friend was in your life? Which really got me to ask the question, what I start this book with is like, why do kids have imaginary friends, and why did I have an imaginary friend? And my hope is that through these stories of fun and joy and heartbreak and some devastation and coming of age, you can understand what purpose imagination serves in our lives.
Yeah. Some of the stories in it are interesting as you kind of went through the rites of passage. Yeah. You were in a gang.
Yeah.
For like a minute.
Not a minute. The hottest of minutes.
I didn't know you could get in and out of a gang that fast.
In the book, I tell this story of the week that I joined a gang when I was in 7th grade. And to open that chapter, I actually used my first 3 experiences of gangs and what that was. And one was a shooting in a theater where we saw Boys in the Hood when I was a kid, and a fight, a big melee that broke out. Another one was a family member who was killed in a drive-by. She was an innocent bystander. When I start this chapter, I say, I still understand why a young boy back then would want to join a gang. Like, it's gold chains, it's nice cars, it's fast money. It's like all these things that look so flashy and so cool when you're young. And it's a group of friends built in who got your back no matter what. And so I had witnessed a fight at my school one morning. And just previous to that, on the bus, there was a kid who was annoying me. And I was like, oh, these two boys in this fight who jumped this other boy, I need what they got. Like, I want that. So my whole reason was really because I wanted them to fight for me. Fast forward, I decide I'm going to join. I didn't know you had to get jumped in a gang at the time. And so I spent basically the whole school week like ducking and dodging, getting jumped in. Like, literally, I would like lie and say like I left my gym shorts at home so like nobody could catch me in the locker room. I would sit with my back to the door in the cafeteria so I could see everybody coming in and out. Just all I would run through the hallways to my next class. And then Friday comes, I walk outside, and the boys jump me. And then I get on the bus, and I'm actually proud of myself. Like, I fought back, I did it, I'm in. Right. And then a tragedy happens the next day. I wasn't there. A bunch of the boys met up, and a young man, they played Russian roulette, and a young man's life ended. And, that forever changed my life in so many ways. I don't know where my life would have gone with that. But what I do know about that moment is I was a 13-year-old boy who was devastated and confused and numb, and I didn't understand how to process all of that. Mm-hmm. And as a 13-year-old boy, I should have been playing still. Like, maybe I'm not playing outside. Maybe I am. I don't know. But there still should have been a sense of childhood there, and a sense of innocence and a sense of play that I no longer had because I had come of age so young and had to be a part of a situation that no kid should be a part of.
Did it help you kind of come to terms with some of the things that shaped your life, sharing these experiences?
I definitely think there was these cathartic moments as I was going through this. There were so many moments where I'd be like, oh, that's why I do that? Oh, that's why I think that? Oh, that's why I say that?
Next on The Pulse, why using his voice for good matters so much to him.
Even just reaching one person means something.
Payback, you with me? Right behind you. Increase speed right now.
Payback is very confident.
Damn right. What say we put some skin in the game?
And then as Maverick starts to test the class, you kind of see that fall apart.
Payback, that's a kill.
But he soon realizes there couldn't be a better instructor than Maverick.
I'm going to train you to take your aircraft to the breaking point.
Let's turn and burn.
What's next? We got the book.
Yeah.
You're out there cornering around. You got movies.
Yeah.
Just didn't even get a chance to talk about you in Maverick and flying planes.
Yeah, man.
They come out to book signings to experience that.
Yeah.
But what's next?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on this book tour, like you said, for basically the month of August. I'm bouncing around to a bunch of cities. It's been absolutely amazing. The response has been amazing. It's been so fun to get to talk to people and tell these stories, but also hear their experiences. Then after that, I have a movie that comes out next year called Freaky Tales, which I think is going to be crazy. I think people are going to go crazy for this movie. It is based off the Too Short song, Freaky Tales. Too Short narrates the film. Too Short also makes up appearance in the film. It's absolutely insane. So I got that coming out, and then I popped in this Netflix series that'll be out next year that two really good friends of mine created, three friends actually, Mindy Kaling, Ike Barinholtz, and Dave Stassen, called Running Point. It's about a woman taking over an NBA team. Jenny Buss is one of the execs on it, so you can imagine there's some fun that was pulled from her own story that was brought into this show. So super excited to do that.
Every show we wrap up on The Pulse, the whole theme of it is how to use your voice for good. In a lot of ways, that's what you're doing with the book. But when you hear the phrase, use your voice for good, what does that mean to you? Yeah,
I mean, I think it's that thing that we have to remember that, like, even just reaching one person means something. And I think any opportunity you have to open a door for somebody and give them an opportunity or show them an experience so they can learn for themselves, to me is using your voice for good. It's being able to reach back and bring people along with you to create equity for everybody.
Guys, thanks so much for watching another episode of The Pulse. Today with Jay Ellis. And all I can say is, wow, the stories were cool. The connection that he has to people, the impact that he's had, and his own experiences. It was just a fun conversation. So I hope you enjoyed it. A reminder to head over and listen to the entire interview, all places where podcasts are available. And I leave you today, as I always do, reminding you whenever you can to use your voice for good, and have a good one.